Welcome back, my beautiful people. Thank you for joining me today on my channel. I am so glad that you're here and that you've chose to follow along with me for this journey. So today I'm just going to talk about the first month. So in my previous video, if you didn't see it, it was kind of a little introductory video where I discussed with you my journey. So for those of you that are new, I am on a journey to health and wellness. I'm doing this through a clinical trial. So I was selected by the Cleveland Clinic Bariatric Institute to take part in the Best Start clinical trial program. And with that, you will get randomly selected for either semaglutide, tirzepatide, or bariatric surgery, either the sleeve or the bypass surgery. So I was randomly selected for the tirzepatide injection, also known as Zepbound, and some other folks know it as Mounjaro. And so I'm documenting my journey as I go through this trial. It's a 2-year-long trial, and I'm just starting. I'm in the very beginning phases of this. I'm new to Zepbound, so for those of you that are new as well, welcome. You can join along in this journey. So yeah, that's what this video will be about. I'm going to be talking about everything that took place in the first month. So sit back, get a cup of something to drink, enjoy, and we will get started. Alrighty, so I started my journey at the beginning of the year. I knew that in December, after the holidays, I was ready for a change. Previously, I had sought out bariatric surgery, kind of got cold feet. I was afraid of all of the problems that can come with surgery, so I backed out. So that was about 1.5 years, almost 2 years prior, but I knew that I needed to do something. I was very desperate to start this journey. So I reached back out to my bariatric surgeon, and I went through all of the steps again. I met with a nutritionist, a psychologist, all of those things. And in January, I got the ball rolling and started the process for bariatric surgery. Around February, after I had completed all of the steps that I needed to complete to get approval through my insurance, I was contacted by the Bariatric Center to see if I wanted to participate in this Best Start program. So I said, sure, after I had heard what it was about, that I could get randomly selected for the medication or surgery. I was already willing to do the surgery. So if I got selected for the medication, that was just a bonus. The medication was just too expensive for me, and so I didn't take part in that. I know there were some compound pharmacies where I could get it cheaper, but then it was kind of up in the air as to whether or not they would even be allowed to market those anymore. So I didn't want to start something I couldn't finish. So when I heard about the Best Start program and the possibility of being selected for the medication, I was on board. Since I had already wanted the surgery and I could possibly get the medication, I said, let's go. I had also known several folks who had lost a great amount of weight and been very successful on the injections, both Ozempic and Zepbound. So I was excited. So I went to the Cleveland Clinic in March. I had my appointment on March 5th, 2025, and they did the whole testing part where they check your body mass index, almost like a DEXA scan, so very similar to that. I think they call it a SICA, and it tells you your muscle mass, your bone mass, your water weight, your fat, the fat around your abdomen and organs and all of that. They also did all the lab tests. They did an MRI. That's what they did, an MRI of my liver and my heart, because they're going to check the progression over the year and how that looks, apparently. So once I completed all of those things, they randomly select you for whatever you get chosen for. So when they did the random selection, I was chosen for Zepbound, and I mentioned that in the previous video, but I'm giving you a quick recap. So on March 5th, I picked up my medication, and I was chosen for Zepbound, starting at the 2.5 milligram auto injector. And so on March 5th, when I started Zepbound, or got the Zepbound injection, I was still scared to death. I think the problem in life is we hear all of everyone's stories, and it's hard to create our own or allow ourselves to create our own because we hear everyone else's journey. And that's how it was for me. I was afraid of the side effects, and anytime you watch a video on any medication, they always say the warnings, and it's always all these lists of things like cancer and all other types of things. So I didn't want any of those things, but I felt in my mind and my body that if I continue living this life of the way I'm eating, and I don't get this under control soon, I'm going to get a comorbidity of some sort that ultimately could result in death. So I said, okay. And I was like, I'm going to do this. It took me 10 days of looking at that box with the injection to finally do my first injection. And I think I sat there for about 45 minutes with it on my skin. Then I unlocked it and took the cap off, and I was sitting there and pulling it away, sitting there, pulling it away, until I finally just closed my eyes and said, let's go, and hit that button. And I'm so glad that I did. So for my first month, my first injection was on March 15th. On March 15th, I had no problems that evening. I had taken the injection, I can't remember, around 3 o'clock or so. And I was just monitoring to see, my biggest fear was an allergic reaction or an adverse reaction of some sort. That's always kind of my fear. I am a very anxious person at heart. So the thought of taking medications is kind of way out of the realm for me. It takes everything I have to take my iron pill. But I took the injection and I didn't have any experiences, any negative experience the first day. The second day I noticed I felt a little bit kind of like weak, tired, a little bit tired and weak. I also noticed that I wanted to take like a deep breath. And I don't know if you're familiar with anxiety. Some of you may be, but when you take a deep breath and you can't catch it, it makes you feel like you got to take another deep breath. But with the injection, it was weird because every time I needed to take a deep breath, I took a deep, full breath, which was very refreshing for me. It also helped to alleviate anxiety from not feeling like I could catch my breath. So the only thing I had felt the first day was some weakness, and I was a little bit tired, but food just didn't sound good. I didn't want to eat, but I also noticed that I didn't want to drink. And so throughout the first month, those were kind of my experiences. I had a little bit of nausea. I did experience constipation. So a good friend of mine who was also in the injection suggested taking Miralax. I'm also a healthcare professional, so I knew that Miralax would work great. So I took Miralax. I didn't start with the first day because I didn't know if I would get constipation or diarrhea. So I waited to kind of feel it out. And I noticed initially I did get that constipation. So I took Miralax daily for the month. I am not a physician. I am in no way suggesting you should take Miralax, but that is what worked for me. If you are on this journey and you're experiencing those side effects, please talk to your provider. They can better direct you on what you should or shouldn't take for your symptom management. But I took Miralax and it seemed to help really well with that constipation. And like I said, the only other experience I had for the whole month was a little bit of nausea, and I just didn't want to eat or drink. So during that month, I lost a total of 14.6 pounds in my first month on the tirzepatide injection, which is a pretty good amount. I was pleasantly surprised and thankful. I did notice at the end of the month, I landed myself in a panic attack and went to the ER. It was nothing by the medication. In fact, all of my labs, when I went to the ER, it was around the third injection I had taken. When I went to get my labs drawn, they were all great. They were actually better than the ones I had initially in January. So I was really thankful for that. But what I did do was, because I have no desire to eat or drink, I was forgetting to drink. So I really, really want to push hard on making sure you're staying hydrated. I try to drink at least at a minimum of 80 ounces of water a day based off of my height. Again, ask your provider how much water you should be consuming based off of your height and weight. Everyone's unique need is different. But I try to hit 80 ounces now. And I also want to make sure that I'm hitting 80 grams of protein. My nutritionist set that goal for me. That is the minimum amount of protein I should be getting every day. So I make sure that I hit that 80 grams of protein and at least those 80 ounces of water a day. Since doing that, it seems to help a lot. But that was the only little mishap I had. And it was fine. I kind of think I worked myself up because I was a little dizzy. I was a little anxious. It was around the time of the month where your hormones are all over the place. And I just kind of threw myself out of whack. So just making sure you're hydrated, and making sure you're eating. So while you don't want to eat, you want to make sure that you're eating foods that are nutritious, protein-rich foods. that are healthy. I would suggest staying away from fatty foods or high carbohydrate foods. We shouldn't be consuming those anyway. They are not good for us. And if we're on any health journey, the idea is to avoid those anyway. I really didn't do any exercise my first month. I know a lot of folks ask that. So like, what did you do for exercise? I really didn't do anything. I honestly didn't even walk, really, nothing more than my job required. And I do have an office job, so I do a lot of sitting. I try and get up and walk as much as I can. Just depends on if I'm on Zoom calls all day or how that day is going as to whether or not I can really get some walking in. But for the most part, I didn't do anything above the average. In fact, I think for my first month, I was more sedentary than normal because I was just not sure. I was afraid of overdoing it. I was afraid of inducing another panic attack. That's the very last thing I wanted to do. So I really just wanted to lay low and take it easy for this first month. I really see how the medication affected my body and how I could handle it. So I didn't go above and beyond. I know that exercise and maintaining and building muscle mass are very important on this journey. And so I'm not saying in any way that you shouldn't do things to help incorporate that into your lifestyle. However, the first month for me, I just really wanted to see how the medication affected me and how I would do. I did have my 1 month checkup and they did the Sika scan and I maintained my muscle mass. In fact, I actually built some muscle mass, lost weight, lost my waist circumference. So all good things. I do plan to incorporate, sorry, I keep getting hair in my face. I really do intend to incorporate some exercise and routines to help build and maintain muscle mass throughout this journey. I just took it easy for that first month. So welcome. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're joining me on this journey. It's my hope to really enlighten everyone who has questions or is curious about this, to really help the medical industry see how effective these injections, and now they're coming out with the oral form of the medication as well, how effective these will be in helping people to lose and maintain that weight loss in comparison to the surgery. If surgery is the only option you have, then obviously that's, something is better than nothing when you're looking at your comorbidities, your weight and your health. If you are morbidly obese like I was, these are interventions we really kind of need to look at. So I'm excited. I'm excited for this journey. I'm excited to see where it takes us. I'm excited to be a part of a clinical trial that will hopefully help others be successful in getting healthy and maintaining that as well. So welcome. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for coming along. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. That way you can stay in the know of all that's coming. It'll keep you updated on any content that I post. I will be around for a good while. 2 years, I think, is this clinical trial. So I'll be around for at least a minimum of 2 years, but hopefully longer, so that I can really see long-term effects and how this medication has either affected my life for the positive or the negative. So thanks again for coming around, and I will see you on the next video.